America, my name is Osei-Frimpong. Today you get a twofer because I just read a fantastic study and I just linked it in the description of this video, and it says that they did study and they had controlled information. And it turns out that once white people found out that COVID disproportionately affects, in terms of outcomes, Black people and other outgroups, they retracted their support for safety measures. Right, so it wasn't once they found out it was it didn't affect them as badly. They were like, well, that sounds like a Black problem, not an American problem. It was an American problem where it affected everyone the same. But once we found out it disproportionately affected, people who live stressed out Black existences, it became a Black problem. And that's, I find that fascinating. And I'm going to talk about why it's fascinating in a few different ways, right? So I want to be clear. The study's in the description, but the results were, once whites found out that the outcomes of COVID were racialized, they withdrew support. So what this means is that there are going to be two sides. The first side says that if you really want your policy to go forward, you have to suppress information about who's affected, right? That's a problem. Second, if you want your racial justice policy to go forward that's explicitly for racial justice, it has to be the kind of policy that everybody knows won't work, because once they find out it works, the support will go. So there's an entire sea of policies that everybody knows won't work, yet are very popular because everybody knows they won't work, including Obama's election, depending on who you talk to. So I'm going to put an excerpt from Mercer Baradowan's The Color of Money up, and it's going to be about Nixon's plan to grow minority businesses. And so someone promised, so Nixon ran on a plan that he was going to grow minority businesses and start this association. And then someone's like, oh, that's a great idea. And they hired this person who said, that's a great idea. Came up with like a large budget and what they had to do to figure it out. And then when they finally presented that budget, and it was actually was going to be adequate to the problem of growing Black businesses, what happened was he was pulled aside by his boss and said, oh, you don't understand. We don't want to actually create Black business success. And I'm going to start reading at the underlined part. Stans informed Rosier that the most important objective was to create Black success stories. We don't want to create Black success. We want to create Black success stories. All right? And this is from Mercer Baradowan's book, The Color of Money. They don't want to create Black success. They want to create Black success stories. So if your program's actually effective, that's you've broken some sort of deal. That's not the deal. We want to create Black success. Your program's supposed to create Black success stories that we can use to oppress the rest of the Blacks, not create actual community-wide Black success. And what does that mean? We need to talk about what that means, because once people find out that it will actually work, the whites will pull support. And that's the part of the COVID analysis that we need to actually think through. What does it mean that once public awareness is risen such that we find out that something disproportionately helps Black people, public support among the whites goes away? That's a very important, strategic thing to understand. And what does that mean for our democracy? And what does that mean for all of the programs that we say will help Black people, but they don't, that do get funded, right? They're funded as frauds. And like I said, this is I think Obama's entire shtick. This was Obama's entire move, and his entire campaign was, I am in the body of a person, a program that is supposed to be good for racial justice, but won't actually do anything. That's how he sold himself to especially liberals and to some conservatives. That's what he says when he says there is no black America. I am a black guy telling you, I'm a black guy you should support because I'm the black guy who says there is no black America, there is no white America, there's just the United States of America. Although, if you look at incarceration rates, home ownership rates, and mortality rates, there is a black America and a white America. So what does that mean? That in order to get a universal policy passed, a policy that will disproportionately affect black people, it can't actually substantively work. And there's an academic analogy of people who get tenure, and they get tenure in order to do courageous scholarship. That's like the idea of it. But, in order to get tenure, you've had to have checked a lot of boxes and do exactly what you're told. So if you actually do courageous scholarship after you get tenure, it's actually a little bit horrifying and surprising to the people who gave you tenure, because they didn't actually give you tenure to do that kind of scholarship. They gave you tenure just because, to be safe, because you've proven yourself to be safe. All right. So this is why Cornel West didn't get tenure. Right, so what does so I hope that's clarified some of the draw of racial justice policies that don't actually work, and then universal policies that somehow get killed and aborted in non-obvious ways. And I want to tie this to an interview I did just now with Bhatia Ungasargan. Bhatia Ungasargan. And because it's a great interview, you should watch it, but because she thinks that actually the problem isn't white culture in the state governments, it's the woke politics. And that you could talk to like conservative whites about class issues, universal programs through class issues, and as long as you don't do it through woke politics, they're going to pass it. And I'm saying that actually, no, our state legislatures are the Klan, right? They will spend money and even die earlier if it keeps them above black people. So as long as if you try to push a working class solution that is going to disproportionately help black people because we're disproportionately poor and working class, then the white poor will kill it, right? And that's what I think the study about COVID shows, that if it's universal, the whites will kill it. So what does that, or withdraw support from it, because once they find out it disproportionately helps black people, that's enough for them to say, nah, I'd rather die earlier. I'd rather cough a little bit. So Bhatia is wrong insofar as she thinks that this is just a class issue and bringing race into it actually turns off whites. It's like, no, once the whites figure out that it disproportionately helps black people, they will withdraw support because they're white first. And this goes with working class whites, not just, elite whites. So thank you for your time. And I hope this will be fruitful. If you appreciate anything I'm doing, go ahead and give to www.funkyacademic.com. Kick in $5, $15, or $50 a month to help me keep doing what I'm doing. And the study, like I said before, is in the actual study is in the description. And if you want to see the interview I have with Bhatia, just go to one of the other videos on the channel. Thanks.